Welcome back to Practical AutoCAD and Inventor. Using annotative text and dimensions in AutoCAD provides several advantages, especially in projects where drawings need to be displayed at multiple scales. In this video, I will show you how to set up and use annotative text and dimensions. Let's get started. Before we begin talking about annotative dimensions and text in AutoCAD, we want to look at the key benefits to using annotative text and dimensions. Number one, you have scalability. Annotative objects automatically adjust their size based on the drawing or the viewport scale. This ensures that text and dimensions are legible at different viewport scales without manual resizing. The second one is standardization and consistency. Annotative styles promote adherence to drafting standards such as text heights, dimension styles, and scales so that they'll be managed consistently through the drawing. And then number three, efficiency. By defining the annotation scales once, you eliminate the need to create multiple copies of text or dimensions for different scales, saving time and effort. And so using that, now what we can do is we can actually move to using and placing them in AutoCAD. Before we look at annotative text and dimensions, let's just do a quick review of regular dimensions in AutoCAD. If I come in here and look at my dimension style manager for this drawing, you'll see that I have an architectural dimension style in here. And if I look at the settings for it, my settings are appropriate for an architectural dimension style. So my extend beyond ticks is 1/8 of an inch. My arrow sizes are 1/8 of an inch. My text is a city blueprint and it's 1/8 of an inch, and so on. The problem is if I come in here and I place a dimension in model space, it's much too small to be seen. If I zoom up on it, you can see that it actually is a dimension with my tick marks being 1/8 of an inch, and there's text in the middle here that's 1/8 of an inch tall, but it's 1/8 of an inch tall. And it's not going to appear to be correct when we get to model space or when we get to paper space. Now it actually works because if I'm here in paper space and I create a viewport, for example, and then I adjust the scale of that viewport to 1/4 of an inch and lock it, when I come in here and I place my dimension in paper space, it's going to appear to be the right size. So this is the way most people do it. They put their dimensions here in paper space, and what you see is what you get. I told it that I want my text to be 1/8 of an inch tall and so on, and so it's exactly the way I want it. It's very predictable. It's not as efficient, however, if I'm going to have that same dimension on several different pages and at several different scales. Let's say I've got it on 2 or 3 different pages on 2 or 3 different scales. I have to go back through and I have to put that dimension on each page, and so it takes a little bit more time. One solution to this problem is actually creating and using annotative dimension styles. So to do so, I'm going to go back to model space here, and I'm going to create a new dimension style that is annotative. So I'm going to go to my dimension style manager here, and I'm going to say, let's create a new dimension style. I'm going to start with my architectural dimension style, and I'm just going to call it architectural 2, but I'm going to click this box right here where it says annotative. When I choose continue, you'll see that it still has all of those same settings that it did before, but the difference is here on the fit tab, it checks this box right here where it says that it's annotative, meaning that it's going to allow the sizes to change as far as when it goes to text and that kind of stuff. So when we go to viewports. So when I choose OK, notice I have my new architectural 2 dimension style down here with the little badge right there next to it that says, hey, this is an an annotative dimension style. I'm going to make sure that that is current and then choose close. So now when I put this dimension in, it's going to place it and it's going to be the right size. So I'll say I want that linear dimension. The first thing that it asks me now that I'm using an annotative dimension style is, what scale do you want this to be when you print it? So I'm going to change this, and I'm going to choose my 1/4 of an inch is equal to where is it? A quarter of an inch is equal to a foot right there, and say OK. And now when I put this dimension in, I'm in model space, but it looks like it's the right size. It's doing the math and saying, hey, this text actually needs to appear to be 6 inches tall. When I hover over this dimension, you'll see additionally it puts the little triangular scale badge next to my dimension saying, hey, this is an annotative dimension. So the advantage here now is when I go to layout 1, this dimension is already here. Okay, it's in model space, but it's showing here. If I want to do this same dimension on another page, let's say I go here and I'll create a new viewport, and I'm going to say, let's scale this one. I'm going to jump into this viewport here. I'm going to scale this one at 1/8 of an inch is equal to a foot, which is another common architectural scale. I'm going to lock that. Notice, however, that the dimension disappeared. And the dimension disappeared because it's no longer at that quarter of an inch scale. So what I can do now is I can add that scale to the original. So I'll go back to model space, for example, and I'm going to pick this dimension and use my change properties dialog box so that I can set this up. Notice right here that my annotative scale for this dimension is 1/4 of an inch is equal to a foot. If I click in here, I can click on the little box right next to it, and I can add as many scales as I need for this drawing. So I'm going to say add, and I also want to add one for 1/8 of an inch is equal to a foot right here. Choose OK. And now notice that it's going to be visible at both of these two different scales. Oops, I picked the wrong one. I want 1/8 of an inch. So where is 1/8 inch? There it is right there. Say OK. And I don't want the 16th, so I'm going to take this one and delete it. And I'll say OK. And so now if I close this, if I hover over this dimension, you'll see now there's two little badges, meaning that there's multiple dimensions that it could be. If I go to this first layout, it still looks the same way it did here. But if I go to the second one, it now has that dimension style there. And it's, again, it's still 1/8 of an inch tall. The text is the appropriate size. The advantage here is that these are actually, different dimensions. If I go back to paper space and I click on it, you'll see that there's two here. There's the 1/4 inch, and then there's the 1/8 inch. And so I could put them in different places. I could say I want this one, maybe a little bit further away or a little bit closer, whatever it happens to be. And then I want this one to be a little bit further away. So if I jump here now, you see it's closer, and if I jump here, it seems like it's the same distance, but it's a little bit further away. I can also do this same thing with text. So if I go to my multi-line or my text manager, for example, I've got this one called City. I'm going to create another one, and I'll call it City 2. Okay. And oops, City 2. Okay. I want it to look exactly like City, so I'm going to leave this here, but I want it to be annotative, so I'm going to check that box right there. And I want my paper text height. Again, I can define my paper text height. I want it to be 1/8 of an inch. So now my paper text height is going to be 1/8 of an inch. Notice that it is annotative. It's got the little badge next to it. I'm going to set it current and then choose close. What I can do now, again, I'll go back and start in model space. And let's say that I want to label this bedroom as bedroom number 2. So I'll come in and I say I want multi-line text. I'm going to make my text box like that. I will orient it so that it's in the middle center. Notice that the height is already set at 1/8 of an inch here. So all I have to do is type in my text, bedroom number 2. Okay. When I click outside, there's my text. You'll see that it's got, the appropriate size here. If I go to layout 1, there's my text there. If I go to layout 2, it's not here. And it's not here because it only has that 1/4 inch scale applied to it. So if I go to back here, for example, I can click on it, use my change properties, and I can add the different scales. Right now it's at 1/4 of an inch is equal to a foot, but again, I can add that other scale. So if I want it to be 1/8 of an inch is equal to a foot, I can click it here, say OK, and then OK. And now as I hover over it here, it's got the two different badges, meaning it's at two different scales. And I can come in and I can say it's there on this one and it's there on this one. This text is still 1/8 of an inch tall, but it's, it appears to be in a different location. I can even move this one. So now on this one it's here, but if I go back to that one, it's still in the middle. Finally, it also works with multileaders. So again, I'll go to the multileader dimension style manager, or the multileader style manager. I'm going to create a new one that looks just like architectural. I'll call it architectural 2, but I want it to be annotative and continue. So again, I'm going to leave all of the settings here as the same. Choose OK, and then make sure that that is the current one, set current, and close. So again, if I put a multi-leader in here, let's say I'm just going to put a multi-leader in and say, hey, this is a closet. So I can come in and say this is a closet here. Make it all caps so we can read it. Okay, so there's my multi-leader. It appears to be 1/8 of an inch tall. I'm going to go ahead and set this up right now. Use my change properties dialog box. Add that other dimension scale. So I'm going to add that 1/8 of an inch scale here. There it is right there. Okay, okay. So I've got the two different scales set with this. Okay, if I hover over it, this one is the smaller one. So I can say, let's put one here and one there. So this is the quarter of an inch is equal to a foot. This one's 1/8 of an inch is equal to a foot. If I go to here, here's my 1/4 of an inch is equal to a foot. Here's my 1/8 of an inch is equal to a foot, but everything is the way it's supposed to be, and they're completely adjustable. If I decide that I didn't want this one visible in this one, I could simply double click it here. Actually, you click it once, you go to the change properties, and then here I could come in and I could remove one that I don't want. So if I didn't want this one, I could delete it here, and then it wouldn't be available in that viewport at that scale. So a great way to be able to put those dimensions in and not have to put them in over and over and over again, but still have them show the way you want them to show.